Hello and welcome to Unprofessional Engineering. My name is James.
You got Luke.
Luke, today, man, this whole topic made me roll my eyes. So I'm expecting big things from you, Luke. We're talking about hypercars.
Okay, so first of all, you poo-pooed this, but I think it was your idea. Like you came up with the idea and then you poo-pooed it.
I twisted your idea. You suggested supercars, and I was like, well, you know what's better than a supercar, I assume, is a hypercar, which I didn't know existed until I Googled supercars.
You never heard of a hypercar?
No, I'm not a car guy.
Yeah, you're one of those you know how to put gas in the car, and that's about it.
I'm lucky that I know how to do that. And don't even ask me about windshield wiper fluid. Yeah, I don't know about the little arrow on the thing. Oh, terrible, Luke. What do you think? Hypercars.
So
you've got 29 minutes. Go.
Okay, perfecto. Thank you, James. So I think the first thing that we have to identify is like the classification of a hypercar. Because like you were said, oh, supercar. Well, what's better, a hyper? So what is the difference between a supercar and a hypercar?
That's all I ever wanted to know.
I think the biggest difference that exists between supercars and hypercars is all hypercars are supercars, but not all supercars are hypercars.
It's like the circles that have the intersecty spot, but one circle,
And usually they consider hypercars to be like the absolute, like 1% is the number I saw.
They say 1%, but that felt generous.
It did feel generous. It's probably like less than 1% when you think of like the number that are made of these. But so it usually comes down to they're almost always like bespoke. They're hand built. They very rarely come out of a factory. Like there's Ferraris that are not hypercars. There are Ferrari hypercars, but most Ferraris are supercars because they're kind of not mass produced, but it's something that if you and I put all of our money together, we could maybe buy a supercar, but probably not a hypercar. Maybe. I don't know. So, but it's usually some aspect.
We could make a payment
of exactly. Could you imagine a payment on like a $700,000 hypercar? Like,
I wonder if they even finance those, or if they're like, yeah, these are all cash purchases. Come on,
finance a car like I can't imagine you. I mean, maybe you could, I don't know. So it's usually some level of rarity. It's usually performance is always usually the like number for performance, one thing.
Yeah, it's like the top speed and the acceleration are like really now when I read the numbers, and we'll get into those, but when I read them, it's like that's the difference. Like that 0.3 seconds is the difference. Like, okay. But then also, didn't they say like all of the stuffs in it is just like silly top of the line craziness, right? Like from the comfort of the seat to the way the pedal feels on your foot. Like everything is just redonkulously wonderful, which should be for the price tag.
Exactly. And most of them are built specifically for the person purchasing it at the hypercar level. Like you order the hypercar.
That. Like the Unprofessional Engineering hypercar built just for us.
Would crash it. Like
it would be you, and I'd sit next to you in my like recliner.
A lot of them don't have like more than
ours
one
needs
comfortable seat. So
ours needs it.
A
hyper truck.
Hypertruck might work.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's like the general. I have some more specifics about like what the difference is. But there's also a big debate as to when hypercars actually started. So I did the Google machine like I normally do.
I
went to my local library and got out the Encyclopedia Britannica like I usually
Hypercar was not in there.
Hypercar was not in there. So most people say the first hypercar was 1993. It was the McLaren F1. And
that's the one I picked as well after looking at the debate.
Now, then other people say, well, whoa, pump the brakes here. Based off of like speed and 0 to, apparently it's with hypercars, it's not 0 to 60, it's 0 to 168 for some reason. Or 186, you know me and my dyslexia.
Yeah, that happens.
It's one of those numbers. Apparently they measure it that way for a reason. I couldn't figure out why. Some people say in 2005 it was actually the Bugatti Veyron, which is the one I think everybody's familiar with. I think Simon Cowell had a Bugatti, the cat from America's Got Talent.
He drives a Bugatti around, but he wrecks his little electric bicycles. Like, come on, that's scary.
But the OG of hypercars apparently goes all the way back to 1963.
The Oldsmobile.
No, it's not the Oldsmobile anything. It is the Lamborghini Mura, like all these Lamborghini names I can't pronounce, so I'm going to say them wrong. I apologize, but it's the Lamborghini Miura, Mura, also known as the P400.
Oh, that's easier.
And exactly. So apparently at the time in 1963, this was like the most, futuristic, fast technology, bespoke, hand-built, crazy materials that were never really used before. But when you compare it to like modern day hypercars,
0 to 60 in like an hour and 13 minutes. Yeah.
so there's a little bit of debate on the first one, which I thought was interesting. The one I remember is the McLaren F1 in 1993, because that's the year I actually graduated from high school. And I just remember, I think I had a poster.
Wait, what year did you graduate from high school?
1993.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, I'm old. I'm significantly, not significantly, but I am a fair bit older than you.
So
but I'm pretty sure I remember I had a McLaren F1 poster on my wall, along with I think Tawny Katane, and then I think I had like a Def Leppard, and I think I may have had maybe a Megadeth. That was like my room.
I feel like the Def Leppard and the McLaren poster going together. Boy, that's beautiful. Yeah. That's because what else would you be listening to while you drive it?
Exactly. So do we want to get into more specifics on like what makes a hypercar, or where do you want to go next?
Boy, there's just so many good options. Let me see. I don't care.
The top. Okay, let's do that, because I think it'll be a short section. I mentioned some of it already, and then we can take a break and then get into the lists and the numbers. So the core elements of a hypercar, and they're different from, kind of website to website. Yeah. But this is what takes them outside of the realm of a supercar. So the very first one that I saw was performance. All of the hypercars that I saw on the list were like 170, 165 miles per hour or faster. No, I'm sorry, 265. It was a 265 or 270 miles per. I mean, my truck goes 170. 270 was the number I saw for most of them. So from a performance standpoint, it's approaching that 300 mile per hour range was what I saw.
I saw stuff a little lower. Well, I saw it. I mean, at that speed, what's it matter? But I saw, give or take around that number. I did see something that was funny. Just, I don't want to jump too far ahead because you are the boss here this time. You know the cars. But they were talking about the Ferrari 488, and it's like this thing's awesome, right? This thing's an absolute beast. 0 to 60 in 3 seconds, top speed of 205. Impressive, but no, doesn't even pales in comparison to what these hypercars.
100 miles an hour less.
It's craziness
than the best ever.
Yeah.
So performance is one. So the next one that makes it a hypercar is limited release. So it's usually sub 200 ever produced, and in some cases, and again, I'm going to pronounce all these names wrong. The Koenigsegg.
You nailed it. No, you got it.
I have no idea how to pronounce.
I think it's like Koenigsegg or something.
I have
like
no
that.
idea. It's a Swedish brand. I'm not even going to say the name again. They're Agera RS 25 made total.
Yeah. And
so
that's on my list that we'll talk about later.
So limited release is a big one. Again, and with that limited release, they're typically bespoke, meaning they are built for the individual that's purchasing them. Funny thing, I'm on that carcinogen page, and they have like apparel that like has their branding and like bags that like fit perfectly in the car and stuff like that. Like the bag is made to fit in like the 1 cubic foot trunk space.
Silly. Okay.
The bags are like $6,000. Like the hoodies are like $1,800. Like it is.
You understand my wardrobe isn't $1,800, right?
You understand? I don't know if my car is worth $1,800 anymore. So limited release performance.
You would have put that lift kit on it. You would
exactly. Appearance. So these are not the average looking car. They typically have a ridiculous amount of aerodynamics because they go so fast. They need some downforce. That's what makes this. That's the engineering portion of the show. Downforce. And they're typically just the styling on these, like they're just different than a standard supercar. I mean, the hypercars just take it to the next level. Cost. I mean, these are typically multi-million, like 3 million, 4 million new, and then their value goes up because they're limited release. Like the carcinogen,
it's like a Rolex, but different.
Like you could have bought that for a mere 3 million back in 2019 when they were released, but if you want a carcinogen now, it's like $7 million because there was only 25 of them in the world. And I think I read somewhere they said like of the 25, like 22 of them are in the United Arab Emirates. So it's exceptionally rich oil barons that, own these vehicles and
podcast hosts.
Like I don't think there's one in the United States, they said. And finally, I mentioned cost, and finally of the categories is build quality. These are almost always hand built. Like if you look at the factories that they're built in, it looks like you're at a spa. It's like perfectly sparkling white, and like it's just these amazing factories they build them in. Every single component is either handmade and machined and fabricated and sewn and polished and built and put together. There is no like assembly line. Like that one car stays on basically a movable mount, and it just goes around the factory getting everything done to it. So pretty amazing kind of quality. So
who did Jay go and work for? The car place? Do you remember?
Mono, BAC Mono.
Yeah. What's that?
So I think they're not a super or a hyper. I think because of performance, but it's very bespoke. It's very individualized. So I think theirs is more of an exotic car.
Oh,
probably
an erotic car.
Exotic, not
exotic.
Neurotic.
Oh, my bad. Okay. I think there's a little more to touch on there, but before we do, we need to take a break. Luke, you're going to be so excited for this week's sponsor.
Carcinogen.
That's that they said, so long as you pronounce our name correctly, we will sponsor you. And you just lost us one free $3 million vehicle. So thank you for that.
Sorry.
We don't have a sponsor, it turns out. But we have shout outs.
That's it. That's better than money.
I put this person. Oh, I know why I put their for full name. I never do this. Jesse Evans.
Are you allowed to do this?
I'm allowed to.
I've decided. Permission.
Well, you'll see.
Okay.
Jesse Evans wrote in, I have recently published my first children's book, My Pet is Odd, which I think, we can all relate to.
I did see this come in.
And I am marketing the book myself. I am a longtime fan of your podcast and love the banter between James and Luke, and wanted to ask if you all would be interested in promoting my book in exchange for me sponsoring an episode. As my book is about my dog, Dobby, the episode could be about a topic in biomedical engineering or veterinary medicine, such as the prosthetics for animals, vaccines, how engineering could prepare a student for vet school, etc. Let me know what you decide. Keep up the good work if you want. And I decided, no, I don't want to do that. But what I wanted to do was give him a shout out, which is better than sponsoring, because that's what he was going to get anyways.
He's getting it for free.
So if you want to check out Jesse's book, head over to Amazon. I did this to make sure that it works. And just type in My Pet is Odd, and it will pop right up there for you to buy. Good luck, Jesse. My Pet is Odd. All of them are. So
yeah, I like it. Very weird.
And Dobby's a great name, so that's good. So
we almost named our dog Dobby. Like that's
really?
how much we like. my daughter and I big Harry Potter fans, and like we were this close to Dobby.
That's awesome. I didn't know that. So that's why I went with Jesse's full name. Jesse Evans, the author of My Pet is Odd.
Cool.
Second shout out, Mike from the UK. Hi there. I
Good
found
day,
your
mate.
podcast.
Is that right?
No, that's Australia.
Oh.
Like the alligator man. What was his name?
Yeah.
Crocodile
Steve
Hunter.
Irwin, Crocodile
That's
Hunter.
the one. I've found your podcast the last couple of days. Really enjoying it. But I do have to comment that the word anyone only comes as singular word. Anyways, therefore, this isn't really in the dictionary. Basically, I guess one or both of us say anyways a lot was the point of this. But anyway, seeing as I've pointed this out to you, any chance of blagging some stickers? You don't ask, you don't get, right? Many thanks from Mike.
I feel like the second half of his written part, considering he's the grammar police, kind of didn't end well.
Well, I even wrote in my little notes here, leave it to the UK to send a message like this. I was almost about to be like, no, you can't get a sticker. But anyways, I'm going to do it anyways. I'm not that mean, though. I do think it was fun, all for fun, since he's a long-time listener.
I'm sure.
And I'm good with that. That being said, I did have to Google what blagging is. And apparently it's like a UK slang.
Okay.
Also not in the dictionary.
They also eat mushy peas over there, so I'm not sure if I trust them.
Well, Mike, thank you. You are on the sticker list. I already warned you via email that this will be another 9 years until I send them. But, keep an eye out. For any of you who want a great shout out like we just did, if you want us to tell people to go buy your book, if you want to make up words and then tell us we use wrong words, anything like that, why don't you go ahead and email us at unprofessionalengineering@gmail.com.
And don't forget to subscribe, like, share. We love the reviews as long as they're positive. And as always, you can tell your smart devices to play the Unprofessional Engineering Podcast anytime.
Luke, I think the thing that frustrated me most about the supercar, hypercar debate...
Was the names of them?
Well, it was all like obnoxious and eye-rolling and pretentious and all those things.
Oh my goodness, is it pretentious.
But what really annoyed me was, like, this was a sentence I stole. The hypercar designation is fluid with where engineering is at the time. So there's no like, this defines it. 300 miles per hour, 0 to 5 million in 2 seconds. There's nothing like that. It's like, it's the best in class, game-changing engineering going into these vehicles. And that's what defines it as a hypercar, basically. So this definition changes over time. And what they say is, it's completely expected that the hypercars of today and the technology going into those is going to become more affordable and more commonplace and trickle down into the supercars of tomorrow, right? So today's hypercars basically become tomorrow's supercars. Supercars become the next day's sports cars and so on.
Yeah.
So as
everybody's
technology,
gonna be driving a Bugatti in a couple of years.
any day now. Yeah, probably us first. But really, like, it's that new technology that lets them go faster, accelerate faster, control better, that ends up pushing them into that hypercar category. And that's the last value I have for today. So continue on your way.
All righty. So I think we probably should get to like the lists now.
Oh, let's list it up.
I have a little bit of technology, but surprisingly, these companies keep most of their like technology stuff kind of close to the vest. I mean, I'm just gonna say the K car company, which K-car is
K-car.
Yeah, K-car is a different kind of car back in the day. So they did list a few things I was able to find, but not a lot. But I think we need to get into like the list, like the fastest, the most expensive.
I want some lists.
Like
I have
1
those.
to 10.
Yeah.
So you can start with your lists. I've been doing too much talking thus far.
Do you want me to do the most expensive, or do you want me to do
most expensive? I don't have that one.
Okay, so what I have as the most expensive from many, many, many researches that I did,
one Google
goes
search.
like this. I think it's from about 10 to 1. So the Mercedes AMG Project 1, which I think it was like, oh, it's the Mercedes. And then they threw Project 1 on there. And I was like, oh, it's actually fancy. Really cool looking. 2.7 million. So pretty affordable. We got that. The Hennessy Venom F5 Roadster. I thought Hennessy and driving don't mix, but again, I'm wrong.
For the record, that is my favorite looking of all the ones on the list.
Also, the name Venom, like,
That's
come on,
awesome
that's
name.
cool. Yeah, 3 mil. The K word, Jesco. Am I allowed to say the K? No, the K car. K car, Jesco, 3 million. Aston Martin, Valkyrie, 3.2 mil. Bugatti Bolide, Bolide, 4.7 mil. So a little jump there of $1.5 million. That's
so
Bugatti
stupid.
W16 Mistral, 5 mil. Pagani, Pagani, Imola, 5.4. The SP Automotive Chaos, I like that, 6.4 million.
Oh my goodness.
Bugatti rolling in here again with the Centodici,
you nailed it,
8 million. And then Bugatti finishing the list with the La Voiture Noir, $13.4 million for the ultra rare hand sculpted carbon fiber body of this silly thing. 1,500 horsepower W16 engine with a 2.4 second 0 to 60 acceleration time, top speed over 260 miles per hour. It ranks amongst the most expensive, if not the most expensive hypercar ever made. The first model of it ever made, like you said, they're not just rolling off the production line. The first one ever made cost an unidentified buyer $18.7 million.
So dumb. Like I just like
it you hurts hear my soul.
I just changed my rant. I'm gonna remind me to I'm using my new rant.
Okay. Why don't we go into that, Luke?
Okay.
Let's take a break for this week's Luke's rant.
We'll roll right into the rant. So
you look worked up. So
I did have a rant about like tires.
College.
Oh, no. I think I'm done with college for a while, but okay. I had a rant about tires, but I'm changing it. So, and this is like our, philanthropic, portion
nice.
of unprofessional engineering. Like, I don't know how any person in good conscience, I think
you had it right.
I don't know how any person in good conscience could purchase a vehicle like that unless you gave an equivalent amount to like
me,
what's happening in like Turkey and Syria right now with these earthquakes. Like,
also
like
a good cause.
Like you see that, almost as good as you, but just slightly better. But like you see like the devastation, like just this one event that happened in the last couple of weeks. It absolutely devastated a country, and you're spending $13 million on a car. If you're giving an equivalent $13 million to a charitable organization that helps fight, childhood hunger or clean water, like, okay, you're a good person. But my guess is the people that are buying, and I'm guessing they're not our typical audience, so they're not going to hear me and complain.
You don't think we're turning them off?
I don't think we are. But if you're buying a $13 million car, you're probably not giving $13 million away, because if you are buying a 13 million car, that means you are probably worth billions of dollars, and how much you're giving away, you probably hide it. Number one, you probably only do it for tax reasons. So it just, now the more I'm thinking about it, this is like infuriating that there is something that my truck in my driveway can do, drive me from point A to point B for $32,000 brand new.
And it's like, where do you even drive these things? You can't drive them in Pittsburgh. What are you going to do?
Gracious,
destroy the thing on this road?
Like when I see you with your 14-year-old Corvette, I make fun of you and thinking how you're never going to drive that in Pittsburgh.
And I don't.
Because you can't for the most part, right? And then you take a car that's like 2 inches lower, and if you pop a tire, you got to remortgage your house to fix it.
Probably worse than that.
Yeah,
sell my house and then get a loan.
So this is a call to any of our listeners. I just encourage you, especially with the stuff happening over in Turkey and in Syria with all these crazy earthquakes, if you haven't already given, I would encourage you to give to a charitable organization like the Red Cross or whatever you have locally in your country that you're listening. Not James Herzing, but that's my rant.
Thanks, Luke.
Opulence is only so much, and then
ending
you got
on a high note there. Yeah, if you have a hypercar and you're listening to us, please write in. There's a lot of conversations I'd like to have with you.
Yes.
Okay, moving on. You have more lists to talk about.
I'm just going to do top ones. So this is like an all-time kind of top list.
All-time great.
So these are like older ones versus newer ones, and just like so. The McLaren
An oldie
F1,
but a goodie, as my mom would say.
The OG is the top of the list. The one from 1993, the McLaren F1, is still considered by most people, the best.
So I saw that as well in multiple places. But is that one of those things where they're like, this is the OG, therefore it's the best, not because it's actually the best? Or is it still the coolest looking and still handles so great?
I still think it's I think the technology probably got exceeded, but I think from a looks standpoint, I think Bugattis are ugly. They kind of look like a like if you cut a spaceship in half,
they do look
kind of odd on it. They're it's a weird.
It's kind of like EVs and how they forced the weird look for no real reason.
Yeah. Like so many cars look way better than a Bugatti in my opinion. So so from 1 to, I'm not going to go through every single one, but I'll do top 5. So McLaren F1 is considered like an all-time hypercar. The Bugatti Chiron,
I have that on the list still.
Is Chiron.
It's like you're spelling it so wrong.
I could not spell that. The Mercedes AMG 1 I have at number 3. McLaren Senna. This is a newer McLaren model, but still probably maybe 10 years old or so. And then rounding out the top 5 is the
K car,
Agera RS.
Yep. Did you see the stats on that thing? Oh man, it's silly.
It's bananas. And the one I would like to call out, like the only one that in my mind I was like, oh, I could buy this. It's like there's a Porsche in the list. There's the Porsche 918
I've
Spider.
seen one of those.
I've seen Porsches in Pittsburgh. I mean, the cat that works with us.
Yeah, you can't say their name. No, I can't say his name.
But he used to have a Porsche. And I'm like,
yeah.
How expensive could a Porsche? Well, apparently, what these companies like Porsche and like Mercedes do is they have one hypercar, and they put all their technology investment and all their efforts into making this very small number of amazing cars. So apparently
all their hypercar eggs in one basket.
All their hypercars. So the Porsche 918 Spider is insane. And it looks like a Porsche still, which is kind of cool.
Volkswagen owns Bugatti? Huh. How about that?
Yeah, and they own Porsche
Fun
too,
fact.
I think.
Well, they're good at stuff. Ferrari Enzo I saw on my list as well. Yeah. And then the Ferrari LaFerrari. That's poor naming.
Very original.
Yeah.
They need someone in marketing over there.
Yeah, maybe. Hey, I'm looking for a job, Ferrari. If you're looking for someone, reach on out.
The next list I have is the fastest list.
Ooh,
and I found some discrepancies here too, which I was kind of surprised by, because I think that's a pretty measurable thing.
Yeah, I would think so too. But there's also the fastest and I would say stock or off the line, even though that's ridiculous to say here. But then there's others like the K car Agera got up to 304, 304 miles per hour max speed, but that was with modifications to make it happen. So I guess that doesn't qualify.
Yeah. So I think the list that I have is without modification. So shipping out the door, going down to the Toyota end of the factory line and picking it up at the dealership. At the
dealership. Right.
So the Bugatti Chiron Supershot is the number one.
Supershot's a good name.
It is a pretty good one. So 304.7 miles per hour. Number 2 is the SSC Tutara at 295.
Oh,
the Tutara.
Slow.
You're familiar with the Tutara.
Yeah, I have a couple.
The Kosenijing Agera RS. I need to listen to how to pronounce it before the end of the show.
And I still can't do it.
Is 277.8.
I saw that.
And the Hennessy Venom GT 270.4 was like the top 4 that I found. And then after that, it started to get kind of fuzzy.
Yeah.
The reason they said they're not going faster is for these things to be street legal, they have to have so many like safety regulations, and there's things that happen. Like that's really the barrier. Like whenever they put certain modifications on these cars, they probably go way faster. Not way faster, but they do go faster than these. But that's the reason, is some of the regulations that happen.
So I have a game for you, Luke, real quick. It's only one thing, real quick, because I think you have some other stuff to cover. I'm not sure. Is this a hypercar? 0 to 60 in 1.9 seconds. 0 to 100 in 4 seconds. Top speeds well over 250 miles per hour.
I don't think so. No.
No? Okay. This is being described is the Tesla Roadster.
Which, yeah. I wouldn't even consider the Tesla Roadster. I wouldn't even consider it a supercar.
0 to 60 in 1.9 seconds is
that's just because
way faster than anything else on the list.
But that's the torque because of electric
acceleration.
Motors. But it's
and
electric
speed
motor.
And performance
how expensive is it?
$250,000.
And how rare is it? So it
doesn't meet. I don't think it exists.
My neighbor has 2 of them.
Yeah, your neighbor has 2 of them. Well, so that was my question. That's why I'm like, hey, it's got the speed, it's got the performance, it's got the acceleration. And they just are going to end up making more of them than.
But to your point earlier, the definition of a hypercar is always changing.
It's fluid. That's right.
Fluid.
It's fluid.
Okay, so I do want to talk about like some technology, or at least the technology I want to hear that could find. So this is the Agera RS. And did you listen to how to pronounce it
again?
The Cassette. It's such a weird.
It's so silly.
It's like that mountain, that volcano that erupted a couple years ago that no one could pronounce over in Iceland. It's like that.
I do remember that happening. It screwed up travel.
Yeah. So just some stats about this thing. So the engine in this is a twin turbo aluminum 5.0 liter V8, 4 valves per cylinder, double overhead camshaft with a dry sump lubrication. Because who wants a wet sump lubrication?
That's what I was thinking.
Dry sump.
Yeah.
Carbon fiber I'm not going to list all, just the cool ones. Carbon fiber intake manifold, optimizes intake. The entire thing is TIG welded, ceramic coated 0.8 millimeter wall thickness Inconel exhaust system. Like the exhaust of this car is like more than my house, more than likely. The power this thing puts out at 7,100 RPMs, it puts out 960 horsepower. At 7,200 RPMs, 1,000 Newton meters of torque. I don't know what that means in like foot pounds. I'm sure I could figure it out with like my little, foot pound wrench thingy.
Hand.
7-speed paddle shifter. Pretty cool. It has a where's the next one? Dynamic active rear wing. So as you're driving, the software, because these things all have tons of software, it's adjusting the aerodynamics to keep you planted.
A lot of this reminds me of our F1 episode, right?
It does. Active independent front flaps. The total downforce for the vehicle is 250 kilometers per hour, whatever that is 418 kilograms. And that means nothing to me because this is all
feels like a lot
in like pounds and kilograms and kilometers. So it feels like a lot to me. My guess is you couldn't lift it. Chassis, 100% carbon fiber honeycomb carbon fiber wrapped around an aluminum honeycomb, so that imagine like hollow aluminum with carbon fiber wrapped. Like you and I could lift the frame if there was nothing else in it. Like that's how light the carbon fiber frame is.
Oh yeah. I don't need you. I could do it.
Exactly. Torsional rigidity, 65,000 Newton meters per degree. So this thing like doesn't bend or twist at all whenever it's cornering. Double wishbone, carbon fiber upper wishbone suspension, two-way electronically adjustable gas hydraulic shock absorbers, whole bunch
You're
of
just
stuff.
saying words to me.
I am. I don't know what any of this stuff means.
Maybe someone listening does.
The only thing I recognize in this is racket pinion steering. Like my truck has that.
Like, well, that thing's garbage. Next.
The brakes, ventilated ceramic front and rear. The size of these brakes are enormous. 40 millimeters, 6 pistons.
Boy, they must be, right?
They're huge. Fun fact, the wheels are a Michelin Pilot Sport Cup 2. You can buy these on Amazon for $560 per wheel. So a little over 25
per tire or
per tire.
Okay.
Just for the rubber part, the tire, not the wheel, is $2,500. But that doesn't include what it takes to install these. You got to take these to hyper specialized shops and have them installed. The coolest thing that the carcinogen people did was they quite literally reinvented the wheel in 2012 when they introduced the patent AeroCore technology. It's a one-piece hollow core carbon fiber wheel. So like when you think of a wheel, you're like, oh, it's an aluminum wheel or it's made out of some exotic metal and they put all kinds of holes in it to make it light. It's like, no, this is carbon fiber and it's hollow and it's the best performance, lightest tire that has like ever existed. So pretty amazing stuff. That's what I got.
It hurts my brain hole. That's
sorry for all the numbers.
No, I love the numbers. I just wish I knew what they meant. Hopefully somebody listening knows what they meant and will write in and tell us about it. If you enjoyed us mispronouncing car names, if you liked understanding what may or may not make something a hypercar, or maybe it will today and not tomorrow, nobody knows, anything like that, why don't you go ahead and email us at unprofessionalengineering@gmail.com. And until next time,
see ya.